You've had an interesting journey overall, and I think my intro doesn't give it enough justice. So can you maybe just tell us your life story? Like how did you get into the educational space? How did you become the first Australian? Was it a leadership role in a university? How did you
Yeah.
get to all that?
Yeah, interesting. I actually born from Gypsy heritage, which actually by heritage traditionally women don't get a job, they don't go to school. So I'm the Gypsy girl that not only did get an education, I ended up moving abroad and becoming the youngest university director in Australian history. So go figure. I think we want to just acknowledge here that you can come from anywhere, regardless of what your starting point is. You can absolutely, with willpower, effort, and work, get anywhere you want. And I'm testament to that. Basically, it's not a case of just being in the right place at the right time. It's a case of doing the right work in the right way, in the right order. So yeah, I basically was in school. I didn't like it massively, like most teenagers. I had a particularly crap day at school one day when my history teacher threw me out of class for asking what I thought was a pretty good question, although it probably had teenage undertones of sarcasm in it. However, I got thrown out of this classroom and I thought, I'm never going back into a classroom ever again. School sucks. I can't wait to get out. It was just so dictatorial. I think I had about 3 suspensions in my school life, and it was because I had the wrong color hairband. I did go to a very strict all girls Catholic school. So, unfortunately, I don't even have really good stories of being a rebel to go with it. But I went backpacking around the world. The second that school gate opened, school there for summer, I was like, I'm off backpacking. And I actually found myself traveling around the world and ended up doing teaching in schools. And it was in these experiences where I realized that education was a lot more than just memorizing the chemical equation of photosynthesis. I realized in sharing who I am, my culture, my background, my experiences, the things that I was teaching in these classrooms, which are not based on a traditional educational curriculum, that you can change people's lives and open up people's eyes and change people's perspectives and help people see and understand themselves and the world that they live in ways that the curriculum in our traditional schooling system cannot. I understood that we could change people's lives not in the way that our traditional education system was allowing. And I fell in love with this new way of understanding and seeing education. So I did my backpacking trip around the world, taught in all of these different schools, and went and did a degree in adult education, did my postgraduate degree in teacher training, curriculum design and development, started my career as a 19-year-old blondie teaching in an all-male category B prison in the UK. That's a whole other story. And yeah, I started my education business as well as became a training manager for the UK government and had both of them running at the same time. Hired my university lecturer as my first employee because I got promoted in my training management job as well. And basically my passion for education and curriculum design just continued to grow from there. So fast forward 20 years, I've moved my business into 3 different countries, literally physically moved to those different countries. And as part of the development of going through curriculum design in its most traditional form 20 years ago, then e-learning came along, and obviously every single business, training provider, university, company, corporate needed to implement e-learning in their businesses for their staff training, their, inductions and all kinds of other reasons. So I actually built my business very much on the basis of doing curriculum design, providing training, professional development training, but also importantly in where I've now moved from, e-learning. So I had to learn back then these massive, clunky university training provider learning management systems, which were very expensive, very cumbersome, needed a freaking generator to make them run. Moths flew out of all of the doors when you clicked on any button with that little thing going round and round. But I had to learn all of these learning management systems for all of these different training companies and universities that I was doing online learning development work for. And over the years, basically, I had people in the public start coming to me and saying, I know that you do all this online learning development for these big companies and these big universities. How can I do that as an individual? And I thought, well, how can you do that as an individual? Because curriculum development's expensive. And a lot of my clients were paying me enormous amounts of money to provide these services for them. But I realized that actually anyone with a camera and a microphone and a little bit of lighting and some passion could basically teach whatever they were teaching in a classroom. to the world via a webcam. And I very quickly started to learn the very few platforms that 15 years ago were available for the public to use at a public price tag. So yeah, along came platforms like Udemy, marketplaces started coming along, and it became Thinkific came along, and it became a lot easier for the everyday person to start commercializing their knowledge and their expertise. So I was in this perfect position, being a qualified teacher trainer, a qualified curriculum developer, and in those early days to basically take over the early market. And I dare say that the majority of the people out there who are teaching course creation were once my students. So sorry, not sorry. And there we go. So I basically, as we moved into this public market, people then had to learn how to market their courses. They had to learn email marketing. They had to learn how to create funnels and web pages and automations. So I became obsessed with learning all of these tools as they were coming along. And yeah, once upon a time, then along came COVID. I had by that point spent at least 10 years setting people up on every platform you can imagine. The Thinkifics, the Kajabis, the Active Campaigns, the LearnWorlds.
That gets messy.
Yeah, I was an affiliate partner with almost all of them. I've made most of them millions of dollars collectively, sending people to all of these different platforms. And COVID happened. And all of these platforms that I had helped bring thousands of people to basically doubled and then tripled their pricing on everyone right when everyone was facing economic catastrophe. One of my students said, Sarah, I can't run my business anymore. And I'm thinking, ditto. The harder I work, the more I grow my business, the more customers I bring in, the more products I create, the more contacts on my list, the more I'm getting fined by having increasing fees and charges. And one of my students said, Sarah, if you made your own platform, we'd move to it. And they all said, me too, me three, me four. So I said, hold my beer. And 6 weeks later, Techmatics was born, having discovered that there was an amazing platform that I could basically build my empire on top of, customize, add in my own APIs, add in all of my background experience in my field, course creation, and create templates and pre-made workflows for my particular audience. And boom, this thing here, where I had a goal of 50 people to sign up in the next 90 days, I chucked it out to my list who were all hurting because of all of these price increases. And I had 754 people put their name down in the first 12 hours, and then began the journey of SaaSpreneurship, basically. And yeah, haven't looked back, still have some PTSD, but pretty glad I did it.